Hello class, welcome to lesson 6.5, which is all about proportional and non-proportional relationships. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to solve proportions and use proportions to solve real-world problems. So let's talk about a couple of vocab words. First of all, a proportion is an equation. That means a proportion has an equal sign. Students will often get confused, but that's the number one indicator that you're dealing with a proportion, is that you have an equal sign and then two ratios or rates. Oftentimes, we set them up as two different fractions. And when we set them up as two different fractions, we can use something called cross products. So if you look here, we have our first proportion, our first ratio, our second ratio, then there's an equal sign, so this is a proportion. And the way that you can solve proportions is you multiply on the diagonals, so 4 times 4, and you set it equal to the product of the other two. So 4 times 4 equals 8 times 2. If you think about that, that's 16 equals 16. That's true. Okay? So it doesn't matter what numbers are there, you should be able to multiply the diagonals, and they should equal each other. And that's going to be really, really helpful as we do our assignment. Okay, our assignment's going to pretty much focus on this idea of cross products. So let's jump right into it. Example 1, solving proportions. Our first one, we have b over 15 equals 66 over 90. So if I use my cross products, I'm going to say 15 times 66, and that gives me 990 equals, and then I have b times 90, or 90b. Then if we solve it just like we practiced solving equations in the past, I have 90b, that's 90 times b. So to undo that multiplication, I divide both sides. So 990 divided by 90 leaves me with 11. So b equals 11. Okay, let's try the cross products over here. I have 9 times n equals 3.2 times 36. And you might be wondering, does it matter what order you do the diagonals in? Like, could I do 3.26 times 36 first, and then 9 times n second? Yes, you can. Okay? As long as you're multiplying the diagonals together, you will be just fine. So if I do 3.2 times 36, I get 115.2. Like I said, if you set yours up just a little differently and did this, you'll end up with the same answer. So I have 9n. Remember, when there's no operation written, there's no operation symbol, it's implied that it's multiplication. And to undo that multiplication, that's why I'm dividing both sides by 9. So 115.2 divided by 9 is 12.8. Okay, so you maybe noticed a trend already. You cross multiply and then look at our second step each time. We end up dividing by whatever number is diagonal from our variable. So you can do something that's pretty oftenly called cross multiply and divide. So if we look at that, 3.2 over 9 equals n over 36. If I cross multiply, I would just say 3.2 times 36, and then right away I would know I divide by whatever number is diagonal from my variable. So right in my calculator, without writing out all of those steps, I could just say 3.2 times 36, and then hit enter, and then divide by 9, and I would know that the answer is 12.8. So if you don't feel like writing out those steps and you can remember the process cross multiply and divide, you are good to go. All right, so I've done a couple of problems. Now it's your turn. Go ahead and solve this proportion. Good luck. All right, hopefully you ended up with 7 for an answer. All I did was I cross multiplied and then I divided by the number that was below or diagonal from my variable. If you have questions about that, please be sure to ask for some help. All right, example 2. The wait time to ride a roller coaster is 20 minutes when 160 people are in line. At this rate, how long is the wait time when 220 people are in line? Okay, so you can set this up a couple of different ways. I have 20 minutes when there's 160 people, and I want to know how many minutes will it take when there are 220 people. So this is one possible way that I could set it up. And another way I could set it up is I could say 160 people over 20 minutes equals 220 people over X minutes. So you can set it up either of those ways. You'll get the same answer. But let's talk about the important things you need to keep in mind. When you are doing this, notice that I always kept people and people on the same level. Like in the first one, they're both on the bottom. They're both in the denominator. On the second one, the people are both in the numerator. And then same with the minutes. On the first one, I kept the minutes all on top. And on the second one, I kept minutes all on bottom. So it's really important that your labels match when you are on the same level. And then the other thing that's really important is keeping numbers grouped together. So I have 20 is grouped with 160. So that's why I put them as a single fraction each time. Okay? And then we were trying to figure out how long the wait time is. So that's X when there's 220. So that's why I put X over 220 or 220 over X. Okay, so as long as you keep the same label on each level, and then the numbers that are grouped together in the problem need to be in the same fraction, you are good to go. All right, so let's cross multiply and divide. So I have 20 times 220. So 20 times 220 gives me 4,400. I'm going to say 4,400. So I cross multiplied, and now I will divide by 160. So divide by 160, and I get about 27.5 minutes as my answer. And that is all I have to do. All right, now it's your turn. Set up a proportion and solve this problem. Alicia's class is making care packages for a local shelter. They can make 8 care packages with 240 food items. How many care packages can they make with 500 food items? I'll give you a hint. You are going to get a decimal as part of your answer, and that's okay. Good luck. All right, hopefully you set your proportion up something like mine, where you remember to keep the care packages on the same level, the food on the same level. You grouped 8 with 240 in the same fraction, then your variable and 500 in the same fraction. So then when I cross multiplied, I did 8 times 500, which is 4,000. Then I divided by 240, and I got 16.6 repeating, or maybe you said 16.7, or maybe even said 16 and 2/3. All of those are correct answers, and I'm fine with any of those. All right, example 3 is our last example for today. Mrs. Hidalgo paid $30 for 4 students to visit an art museum. Find the cost for 20 students. So we have $30 for 4 students. And I'm going to set it up just like I did before. And then I want to find the cost for 20 students. Okay. I'm going to do 30 times 20, which gives me 600. And then I'll divide by 4, which when I do that, I am left with $150. So it's going to cost Mrs. Hidalgo $150 to bring 20 students to the art museum. Okay, so this is nothing new in comparison to other things that we did in the video. This is just more practice, more examples for you to see. I have one more for you to try on your own. Good luck. Okay, for this problem, hopefully you set up 49.95 in the same fraction as 5, and then you set up x with the same fraction as 8, and then you kept your money on the same level and your DVDs on the same level. Cross multiplied, 49.95 times 8 gives me $399.60. Divide that by 5, and you're left with $79.92 to buy 8 DVDs at that same rate. Okay, so if you have questions on this problem or anything else from the video, please be sure to ask for some help. I am happy to help you. Have a great day.